I had an experience, and I've been told that this is very, very difficult for our loved ones on the other side to do, but I actually had an experience after Roger passed. It was not long after he passed. It was definitely when I was suicidal, where I woke up and he was laying how he always laid next to me in bed, like looking right at me. It only lasted a few seconds, but it is energy, and it's them, showing us anything related to synchronicities, manifesting, all the things. The more we talk about it, the more we're displaying gratitude. And so it magnetizes it. So we start getting more and more of it. So the more you're acknowledging your experiences, the more experiences you're going to have, the more communication you're going to have.
I'm Luke, and you're listening to the Luke Mind Power Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode on the Luke Mind Power Podcast. I hope you're doing amazing, guys. I have someone super extraordinary with me today, and I'm so excited to share her story, get to know her better. Her name is Lindsay Stanton, and she's the president of DigiMe. It's a digital technology company in the human resource space. She built and ran with Roger Stanton. Roger passed in October of 2020. Lindsay and Roger are soulmates. Spent 20 years in the physical world, in love, working together during most of those years and traveling together as well. In 2018, DigiMe was launched. Roger was the CEO and president until his passing. Lindsay was the chief client officer. Lindsay has extensive media and speaking experience from her tenure as an executive, having been featured on major television and radio outlets, as well as industry events as a subject matter expert. Lindsay has always been intuitive, receiving information and signs from grandparents and family members that passed since she was young. Lindsay deeply embraced her spiritual journey after Roger's passing, becoming trained in coaching to assist those in deep grief, taking programs on mediumship, Reiki, and somatic therapy, as well as participating in spiritual communities, learning extensive modalities to assist those in grief. So, ladies and gentlemen, I really want to welcome to the Luke Mind Power Podcast, Lindsay Stanton.
I am so thankful to be here. It is just such a great reverence to be here and to have this conversation with you. I'm so looking forward to the amazing nuggets that are going to come out of our conversation and space together. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'm already feeling it. The nuggets are coming. Yeah, the downloads are coming. Absolutely. So, I mean, that was a pretty powerful kind of like overview of like what you have experienced or been through since 2008. Is that correct? 2008, where you launched DigiMe.
Mm-hmm.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit more about maybe your relationship in the physical world with Roger, and also maybe kind of the connection that you have as well, because obviously to have this now in the spiritual sense still connected and moving forward, how did this kind of all come about?
Yeah, great question. It's kind of like where to start, right? I think it was our relationship always was one of those relationships where you just instantly know. Literally the minute we met, we knew. And now looking back, I didn't realize it at the time, but now I recognize that was our souls recognizing each other, probably from past lives, whatever you believe, but definitely something larger than just this time around the world. So it was immediate. It was definitely not like any other relationship I've ever experienced in my life. There were none of the do you like go forward, like the weighing out the pros and cons of the partnership, or, all the things you normally do when you're dating somebody. Like, can you tolerate this? Or, is this a good match for you? There was none of that. It was literally like instant recognition that we were meant to be together. He actually told me that he could fall in love with me. So I met him on a job interview. And at the end of the job interview, he was talking about like where he was progressing his business and where he could see the company in 5-10 years. And he was asking me my career objectives. And he said, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? And before I could even answer, he said, because I'm worried I could fall in love with you and you'll leave the business. And that was one of those things where it's like, you're mulling it over in your head, right? Like, what did this person just say to me? But it really stuck. And that was honestly him speaking that deep truth the first time we met was the launching point of the power of our partnership. And I firmly believe that that set the foundation, the tone of what we've been able to achieve since he's passed. And I definitely now recognize that as difficult as this has been, as extremely painful as it's been for me, it was necessary so that I can potentially help others that are going through, similar types of grief. Because if you're able to hold such deep pain, you're also able to hold such beautiful, amazing joy. And there is just a tremendous duality to it. And the things I've been able to create, manifest, and experiences I've had since his passing, because of his passing, if that makes sense, and our connection, have just been phenomenal.
That's amazing. And, this is the challenge, right? Because you said, your souls recognized each other, so this is a really deeper side of life, the spiritual side, right? The real true connection. And I think we're so disconnected as a society from our true spiritual self. How can we transcend that to helping people become more aware that it's not, it's like people are more influenced by other people or by family expectations. I mean, that's what happened to me. 27 years old, and everyone around me was in a relationship and I wasn't. So the moment that I met someone, I felt like that was it,
Yeah.
and I was like completely infatuated with her. And, it was like things just, and I back then I had so many insecurities within myself, I was very needy, got very clingy and attached very quickly. So, within a month I asked her to marry me, but, I wasn't mucking around. But that could have been the same thing of like, I knew, right? But 8 months later, she turned around and said no. So obviously it wasn't what I thought it was. What do you think is the real problem, I guess, with society, with people, that we're not attracting, or are we impatient to actually attract the right person? Or do we need to go through relationships first, breakdowns, experiences to help us evolve to then get to a certain frequency where we align with that specific person?
Yeah, there's so much to break down in what you just asked. And I feel like you, in some ways, answered your own question with the way you asked it. But I feel like, first of all, we all obviously need to do the work. I mean, all the work, that you preach, especially like the inner child work. I've done so much work on this journey. But so I think that's first and foremost, because you can't be in healthy relationship with anybody, whether it's a spouse, a friendship, even a coworker, unless you're coming to the table with emotional intelligence and can really truly, put your best foot forward every time you're in community with somebody. So I think that's absolutely critical. But I do think that we're here, obviously, to learn our lessons. And, relationships are going to challenge us. And just because it is your soulmate doesn't mean you're not going to have challenging times. You're going to have challenging times, So I think you need to make sure you're doing the inner work to have those conversations and be able to be prepared to, make the moves you need to make to foster the relationship for the health of both people. But I also think we're super distracted, just in general, we're super distracted. We're looking for the next quick hit to make us feel good. And we do that in relationship. We do it with consumerism. We do it in all aspects of our life, right? And so we do the same thing when we're looking to date, to love. I mean, this is why, I fundamentally just don't get the whole dating app thing. To me, you need to have an organic, energetic connection with somebody, I just truly believe that, to have that type of soul recognition, I believe it needs to be organic. So I think we need to look at things, take a step back, and not be so consumed with finding somebody, first of all, being okay to be alone. which I think you model beautifully, and the risk and willingness you make every day to be brave and, to move crazy places and have all the experiences. I mean, that's on that path is who you're going to meet. That's when you're going to meet the person you're meant to meet, right? Because you're being your truest, best version of you. So I feel like instead of looking for the quick hit relationship, just take a step back, do the inner work, and the relationship will come. I truly believe in divine timing because, look, I was in a bad marriage. I mean, I was in a marriage that did not work
Well, yeah,
before.
tell us about that. Like before you met Roger, what relationship were you in? What experience did you go through?
Yeah, I had a really rough relationship. I had met somebody, kind of what you described. I met him in college. Intuitively, I knew it wasn't right. I actually cried when I was standing at the altar, which should have been a huge clue to me. But I do definitely believe like that relationship was so challenging, and we were so divergent. But I'm thankful for that experience because I truly believe without that experience, I wouldn't have completely appreciated the beauty of the relationship that Roger and I had.
Time really does fly. And, it was 2018 where I just, I'd been through so many relationships and rejections and things not working for me the way that I wanted them to. And a lot of it was pressure from friends, what they're doing, and family, right? That I was supposed to go down this path, and it was my own decision to realize that even the current relationship that I was having at that time in 2018, around May or June, that was unhealthy. It wasn't, it really wasn't helping me grow, and it wasn't someone who I saw myself with in the future. So it was that point where I said, no more relationships. Like, I don't want a girlfriend. I want to spend time with me. And yeah, this is the hard part, because when you're coming from a place of insecurity, you want to feel loved. And I'm like, yeah, I say this now. I wanted to feel loved. I wanted that relationship. I wanted that marriage or that family life or that what everybody else had. But the question is, how can you expect someone to love you when you don't love yourself? And that's what I didn't have. I didn't have that self-love. I didn't love myself. So then that moment, it's like I said, nah, that's it. I'm done. Even the sex, because it was available, even just the sex, like, hey, like, let's just sleep together. We don't have to be in a relationship. And for a male, for the male ego, that's like ooh, yeah, no strings attached. I can just sleep around, right? So I still had to say no to that. And yeah, it's like since that time, like up until now, I think about that. I'm like, wow, how did I do that? Because look how it just went so quick, But it was like, yeah, I've given my time and my life to everyone. What about me? I want people to love me, but I don't love me. So it's a powerful journey, but it is uncomfortable. And you have to go through sometimes a shitstorm, sometimes negative experiences to go, hey, hang on a second, man. Like, why do I keep attracting these people? Or why are things not working out for me? Maybe it is time for me to get comfortable with myself and to enjoy my own company and to figure myself out and to evolve, So yeah, thanks for mentioning that, because I just think about it now and I'm just like kind of blown away by my own kind of action. But at the same time, like I wrote a quote on Twitter recently about your soul, and your soul knows where it has to go. And it will even take you through experiences and relationships that are negative on purpose so that you learn the lessons that you need to learn, because eventually you will be guided in the right direction to attract your soulmate.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I also think there's larger intention behind us spending time alone too, besides just doing the inner work. Don't you feel like that helped you connect to like God, source, the universe, and just knowing that you were deeply loved no matter who you were physically in community with? For me, I've had that experience. Like just because I'm not in a physical relationship now, I feel a bigger, broader love than I had ever known or tapped into before.
Yeah. The relationship with myself, because I mean, I was raised in a Catholic family, religious, really religious. Mum was always trying to get me to go to church all the time and pray and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I kind of felt like I was stuck in a box, and I was, that was the only way, that was the right way to go. So I had to like disconnect myself from that, which kind of meant I was disconnecting myself from the whole, God belief system in a sense. But everybody has their own way of like connecting with the divine and source and the universe, right? So for me, it was the reconnection with myself. It was the time that I needed to come back to myself, which then helped me really understand that, there is this greater energy out there. But it was all a lesson, and it was all a process that I had to go through that now has kind of led me to a place of peace, which, you're not forcing anything. You're flowing. What flows, what crashes, crashes. It's not like, oh, I need this, and it always comes back to the inner work. It's like, well, why are you needy? What didn't you receive when you were younger? Didn't you get enough love, attention, validation, approval, encouragement? If you didn't, guess what? You're yearning for that. But then also it's the other side of things where if you didn't get enough love, now you may find it hard to receive compliments. When someone gives you love, you don't know how to receive it because you've never got it.
Yeah. And I think too that you tapped into something around energetics that I want to point out. Like when you're in that state of quote unquote need, it's all coming from a place of lack. When you realize that there's something bigger and that we truly do have everything that we quote unquote need, that, we can kind of be in a state of flow. And that's when the true magic starts to happen. That's when we can tap into the divine. That's when we can really be in a flow, creative state. That's when we manifest all the beautiful things and joy in our life. So to me, like, I think I have, this whole process has allowed me to step back from quote unquote need and that kind of desperate energy. It almost ramps up at first when you lose somebody, when they cross over. But then you get into this beautiful state of trust if you do the work, where you know that you always have that connection, and you can really kind of just be in flow with it.
Absolutely, yeah. You said the word crossover, and a recent interview I did as well with Peter Crone. He shared something similar because he lost his parents when he was young, and he said, "I didn't lose them.
Exactly.
The energy was just transcended or transpired to another place or whatever it is, because everything's energy cannot be destroyed, right?"
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit more about that side of things in your life now, because obviously you still have this relationship in the energetic sense, the signs, and that's another thing for me as well, that when I took the time to say, okay, I need more time for me. I need to connect with me. I need to connect with God, the universe, the bigger energy out there, disconnect myself from the expectations of family, friends, society, what they want for me, what I'm being influenced by, and reconnect with my truth. So a lot of the things that really guided me and helped me were synchronicities. And the thing is, and it's like, well, this is maybe why you're freaking so powerful, Luke. And like, you're the chosen one. My first girlfriend, her birthday was the 11th of the 11th. That's when I was 17 years old.
That's amazing.
And my birthday is the 22nd. So 11 plus 11 is 22. And I guess it is part of the reticular activating system of my mind. But like, how can you explain? I'm going to my first live open mic in Chicago. I'm driving there. I've never been there before. I'm running, or not really running off, nearly running late, but I'm quick trying to get there because I don't know the address and I've stuck on Google Maps or whatever. Anyway, I find the freaking parking spot. I get out of the car, and as I turn around, there's a bus coming my way. And guess what the number of the bus is? 22. And like, I look at it and I'm like, I'm in the right place. Everything is in alignment. Keep going, So it's like these kind of things that have been happening to me, like for so many, even before I started this journey, but I just never picked up on it. They were there all the time, And so now along the last 5 years for me, a lot of these signs, these numbers, and they're just like, for me, it's the biggest sign that I'm going in the right direction and to believe in myself more. And like even living at my parents' house and or even at the old house that I just moved out of, the numbers, like the how does the microwave and the oven have the same? They had the same at some points. They had 11, 11, 11, 11, 922, 922. That's my birth, 922, September 22nd. Like they would show up at the same time. And I never configured the numbers,
I have the same experiences on a daily basis. So, I mean, I've had these experiences definitely to a small extent when I was younger, but since Roger crossed over, it's definitely, I mean, it's like, I always say it's on steroids. I mean, my friends and family think it's crazy. Like I probably get at least a half dozen, if not more, angel numbers every single day. 1111 was a big one with him. Like, so I get that one a lot. I never even knew about 1111 until he and I started dating. But he had this thing where he would like kiss the dashboard of the car, like, and like, because he lost several people very close to him right before we met. They were actually had just passed. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I just laugh because I laugh out of pure joy because it, like all the synchronicities, like you said, I mean, it's like my friends laugh. Like, I don't know why you worry about anything because it's like the carpet's being rolled out for you. Like, I mean, like whether it's something as simple as a parking spot or literally like money just appearing exactly when it needs to, clients appearing exactly when they need to for the business. Like, I mean, just so many things. I literally have examples every single day. And that's why I started journaling them so that people could see, the problem is when you're in deep grief, it's hard for you to see the way out. It's, it's similar, I would venture to guess, to depression in that way that, it's hard for you to see the next step, the light, any light. So being able to identify those signs and synchronicities, even if they're just small at first, help build the pathway to you to get back on track to be able to fulfill your soul's purpose. And so for me, journaling that is obviously super purposeful for me and brings me such great joy. And if I get to a dark spot, I can go back to that and it takes me back to the truth. When I get distracted by the physical world and, all the things like the shiny, glittery things that we're distracted with every day or the news or whatever it is, which I don't even consume anymore. But when you start to get distracted, you can come back to that. And so that's why one of the things I always tell people is journaling is huge because it not only helps you start to identify those things, but when you are having a challenging day, you can come back, or a challenging hour or a challenging minute, you can come back to that truth and know there is something bigger than, the sadness that you might be stuck in that moment.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about how challenging that was for you because, I can imagine the love, the relationship, the life that you were living, and grief is definitely something. I mean, I haven't really experienced it on that level. Like my grandmother passed in 2018, and that was really like my awakening coming back to Australia. And I always said that, she followed me there to that apartment and she was like, Luke, it's time for you to change and grow. This is not your life. This is not what you're supposed to be doing. And because it's, how do you explain it? Like when people say, what happened? How did you change? And I'm like, yeah, there's so many different things. But the one main decision that I made was that I'm moving to Poland, which was where she passed. But that was my, heritage, my culture. At the time, I was very attached to the country and to that identity as well, given my parents are from there. But that was the loss. And so there was deep, I did cry. I don't cry much, to be honest. I do get emotional, my throat chokes up and stuff like sometimes. I did this morning actually while I was in the shower because of seeing my friend. It's his birthday, and he's my best friend, and he's, you know, in Italy, and he's doing a gig for a wedding. And, you know, a couple of years ago, he was afraid to step out and be a DJ, you know. So I got a bit emotional there because I was just like, oh my gosh, like, look how far he's come. If there's anything that's challenging to deal with and for you to heal from, it's grief. Everything else is kind of like on a different level, but grief is something that requires time, really. Like, in terms of, like, for example, coming out of a toxic relationship or going through trauma, some sort of abuse, or something really horrific that you've been through when you were younger, that's something that you have to take action on. And obviously it takes time, but it requires action for you to process emotions and express yourself, and journal and do a different, you know, somatic exercises or breath work or whatever it is, right? But grief, you can't just do a freaking program for 30 days or 2 months and all of a sudden you're over it.
Yeah. And I think some of people that are blessed enough to not have been touched by it yet in their life, don't understand that it's not a single event. It's amazing some of the things that people say. And I know, like, they're well-intentioned, but when, you know, you experience loss, some of the things that you hear, are kind of off-putting. You know, like, I've had people say to me, so, Roger passed, and then literally 6 months to the day, and this goes to your point about dates, because I don't believe this was, you know, by happenstance. I don't even believe in that anymore. I believe everything happens for a reason. But literally 6 months to the day afterwards, my best female friend and basically second mother passed away. And I had people say to me, well, you had a really bad year. Well, it's like, no, this wasn't a singular event or two events. Like, this is my new normal, you know, like, this is, now I have to figure out who I even am. And that's part of it too, is who are you without those people that you spent the majority of your time with, you know, like, without them physically here, what even resonates with you? And most people that go through traumatic loss, whether it's a spouse, a child, you know, even a close parent, you have to kind of relearn who you are and what you even like anymore, because a lot of it can be attached to the identity of that relationship, you know?
Yeah. And I'm sorry for the passing, you know, because it hurts, you know, and
it does hurt.
It hurts a lot, you know, but as I go back to my experience, you know, the loss of my grandmother hurt, and it kind of is a shame, but sometimes it's just the way that it has to be. You know, if it doesn't hurt enough, you won't move.
Exactly. And I see that now. You know, when it first happened, I thought, like, why did it have to be him? Why does it have to be, you know, I'd like come up with all the things. Like, he was super fit and worked out all the time, ate extremely healthy. Like, why him? But the reality of it is, now I clearly see that this was our soul's paths and this was predestined, and he knew it. Like, when I look back on letters that he wrote me when we were dating, he would reference, like, not only dreaming about me when he was a child, but also if he ever left before I did. And so he knew on a soul level, I truly believe that he was going to be leaving early. And I know now that I had to experience the enormous depths of this loss to be able to get to the place where I am now, and to have the opportunity to help other people and to help carve a path, because the conversations I'm able to have with people that are grieving and the impact that it makes is phenomenal. And honestly, nothing like brings me to that place of just like deep soul satisfaction, like when somebody, you know, that lost their husband or their child says to me, like, that I just help them to transform the way that they're looking at it and to continue living, you know, because it's difficult. You know, I definitely went through suicidal ideations. I mean, it's, you know, that's the reality of it. And anybody that's not saying that, they're holding it close to the vest, because it's the truth of it. I mean, you can't go through it without having those feelings, at least at some points. So to be able to see that type of impact when I share, like through my book and through one-on-one conversations with people about how we were able to build this communication system, it's amazing to be able to see the impact to other people. It's amazing. And I know that with any other loss, it wouldn't have taken me to the place that I needed to get taken to be able to have that impact.
Yeah, powerful stuff. So tell us a little bit, first of all, tell us about DigiMe.
Yeah. So Roger had started the company in 2008. I started with him about 6 months later. It's a technology company in the HR space. So instead of doing text-based job descriptions, we build video job ads for companies.
Okay.
We've got a patent behind the solution. I've been passionate about the business, but he lived and breathed the business to the point where even when he was in hospice, like his final days, he was talking about the business. So I'm passionate about it for myself, but I'm beyond passionate about it because of it. It was so, it was so his. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was reading something about a device or something that helps connect people with, when someone passes, so that they can stay connected or something like that.
I just it just came out a few weeks ago. I published a book called The Enduring and the Everlasting. And so it's basically 3 sections. The first section of the book is talking about our lived experiences in the physical world, just to give people a deeper insight into our relationship and kind of the depth of our relationship. There's some funny stories in there too, and then the second section is the experiences and signs that I started to have literally immediately. The minute he passed, I got my first sign from him, and how I used those signs. I was able to use those signs to build a communication system with him. And so I detail out a lot of the experiences that I've had just so that people can see that it is possible. And then the third section of the book is basically a how-to guide. So giving people an outline of a typical day of what I do to be able to connect and have communication with him, and kind of walking through my experience and how they can do it themselves. Because most mediums will tell you, the qualified mediums that have been, vetted, tested, all the things, will tell you that you can do this yourself. You can have these connections and communications with your loved one yourself. You don't need a medium. The medium, I always look at the mediums as kind of the icing on a cake, it's just another layer of validation. But yeah, the book is really laid out step by step to help people be able to have the communication with their loved one.
That's pretty incredible and almost unbelievable.
Yeah, I can see that, but I think
you get people that are like skeptical, that are like, yeah, whatever,
it's really interesting.
What about ghosts? Like, is that part of the spiritual world as well? Like people seeing ghosts and stuff, or?
I don't know. I don't really go down that whole like dark path. Like I'm more into like the positive and the light, the love and light aspect of it.
I mean, is ghost bad?
No, not necessarily.
The ghost as like something that is energy or is a spirit or something that you see in the room. Like I see something just walk past or something. I'm like, oh, what was that? And it could be someone's soul or energy or whatever it is. Like they're not here anymore. But
100%. And people use the word ghost differently. So for me, like, it's kind of like the, like scary stuff. But the scary apparition version, is, I think, the word that like is, kind of more in the spiritual realm that people use. But no, 100%. And honestly, I had an experience, and I've been told that this is very, very difficult for our loved ones on the other side to do. But I actually had an experience after Roger passed. It was not long after he passed, and it was definitely when I was suicidal, where I woke up and he was laying how he always laid next to me in bed, like looking right at me. It only lasted a few seconds, but But like you said, it is energy, and it's them, showing us. But as far as your comment about like doubters or, anybody, first of all, I would say I 100% live my authentic truth now. I don't hold back from telling people my experiences, because what I've learned is it's actually the absolute opposite. It gives people space and permission to have conversations that they don't feel safe having with other people. And it is phenomenal. I've not had anybody like act to me like, what are you talking about? It's always the opposite. I'm like, then they start sharing experiences with me, and I have had so many people thank me for being brave and telling my story and giving them a platform and a place to have a conversation about the experiences that they're having. And the fact of the matter is, like anything related to synchronicities, manifesting, all the things, the more we talk about it, the more we're displaying gratitude. And so it magnetizes it. So we start getting more and more of it. So the more you're acknowledging your experiences, the more experiences you're going to have, the more communication you're going to have.
Very powerful. And, and it is I can hear your authenticity. I can feel it. And, you are going to get always people that have doubts but it's always like, if you haven't experienced it for yourself, then you're going to be skeptical, right? You're going to judge or whatever. But that's, I think it's part of the authentic journey. You being yourself, speaking your truth. I mean, I get it a lot too. I get different types of comments and messages and stuff like that. And, sometimes in the past I was triggered, but now I'm just like, that's going to keep. That's just
probably not the person for you. Like they're not meant to be in your world, and that's okay. Not all of us resonate with everybody, but the people that need us are going to be, pulled into our energy, and they're going to get healing energy from us. So, if you have a healing impact on one person, 100 people, 1,000,000 people, what difference does it make if there's a few naysayers?
Yeah, but the naysayers are important too. I have love for everyone, because, you can't give what you don't have. And going through a journey of like self-love and self-compassion, self-appreciation and healing, it takes you to this new level of seeing people differently and knowing that,
right.
Some people are just projecting because of their own fears and insecurities.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I wasn't saying not to have love. I'm just saying that they're not ready for you right now.
Oh, yeah, of course. Like, I'm not changing for anyone,
Right.
But people will just, I think it's funny, especially social media. I see it a lot on TikTok or even Instagram. I always see if there is a video, and then I, I hit the comments, and there are so many people that are like sharing their opinion,
Yeah.
And so, it's interesting how people love to share their beliefs of what they think you should be doing, But I guess that's just social media, right? But the other thing I want to ask you, and I think it's awesome. We'll definitely share the links for your book in the show notes. But in terms of now moving forward in your life, the relationship with yourself, obviously you have this connection with Roger spiritually, and you feel you have the messages and the signs, and he's there. Do you feel that does that mean that you're not allowed, or you don't give yourself permission, or you just don't feel that you want to attract someone else into your life, or how do you feel about that?
So, that's a good question. It's a complicated question. We had a conversation. So luckily, when he was in hospice, we were able to have a lot of conversations that, not everybody gets to have with their person, but, we made a pact that, if he was to ever send me somebody or come through somebody, that this person would communicate something very specific to me. So we have a phrase that this person would say to me, should that ever be the case.
Wow.
Does it resonate with me, the thought of like being in another relationship? The truth of that is no. But have I created rules or blocks? No, because that defeats the purpose of everything we're talking about, right? So Yeah. So my thing with that is like, yeah, I'm open. It like if somebody ever came to me and said to me what we agreed on, I'd probably hit the floor first.
Yeah,
But yeah.
that's a, just hearing you say that, I'm like, oh damn, like yeah, the energetics of the spiritual side of coming through somebody else to connect with you. That would, yeah, that's next level shit, man. It's deep, you know. But yeah, like it's not impossible, right? But I think
Right.
yeah, it's definitely for everyone it's different. I mean, you especially when you go through a relationship, there's so much love and connection, and then that's not there anymore. You know, you can have such a powerful connection that once it's past, you know, I'm good. I don't want to attract anyone else. I don't want to
Yeah.
be in a relationship. That was it. And if I can't have that, I'm not having any more, you know? So, and some people can be like that, you know?
Mhm.
Um,
I
or
also
you can
feel
have,
like, sorry to interrupt you. I also feel like we go through phases in our life too. Like maybe that was like my like love phase for to be in relationship with somebody, you know, at like the spouse type of level. And maybe the next phase of my life is to be in deep community with an expansive group of friends, you know, like we don't have to always have our relationships look the same or the way that society, you know, kind of tells us we need to have them look. You know, maybe there's a new phase of love to show itself through me, to me, in this part of my life. So I'm open to any way that that could be. It doesn't have to be a one-on-one relationship with a, you know, spouse.
for sure. So tell us a little bit more about how you help people and what, obviously you're an author, so, you know, you've got your book, but what are you doing in the professional sense?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, as in my capacity as an executive, I definitely speak my truth every time I can, and it's amazing. I'm in containers with other C-suite executives and having these conversations, and it opens the door for a lot of people to be able to, you know, communicate things that they don't feel comfortable otherwise. But in addition to that, I am definitely helping people through like Reiki healing sessions. I'm helping people not just with the book, but through one-on-one grief coaching and things like that. So
That's awesome. Being of service. I think it's one of the probably most fulfilling things that you can do. Is to give
100%.
back and to be of service to others. And I think what is the thing that drives you now? Like, is it just in the fact that you know that you're able to give something to people that they need that's helping them to thrive and prosper? How does that work
Yes.
for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if you've ever read like Gary Zukav's work or Jamie Wheeler, Recapture the Rapture. The premise of the work is that the people that have chosen or have, you know, are chosen to be here during this time are really to up level humanity and our collective consciousness. And I 100% believe that. So I think is my job. Like this was my soul's mission coming here. So I take it, you know, I'm very passionate about it. I love being able to make a difference and, you know, try to help people see things a little bit differently when they are stuck in grief.
Yeah, and it's also like your purpose, right? Do you feel that it's like your
Yes.
calling?
Yes. Yeah.
And you know, I think this is one of the questions that many people kind of get stuck with in life. And I believe that in order for you to discover your purpose, you need to step into your authenticity.
Hmm.
If you're not being authentic, you're out of alignment with who you are.
Yeah. And I
So,
feel like deep pain is always a catalyst for that, you know, because I do feel like we get tested with how much we can hold. Because if you can't hold pain, criticism, you know, like you were talking about earlier with like the comments on social, if you can't hold that, you can't be a safe space for a large number of people.
yeah, um, they motivate me. When I see comments like hating comments or negative comments that motivate the shit out of me, I'm just like, you know, I just keep going, right? So like they're also a good part of it's also part of the algorithm. It's like every comment is a good comment, you know. Social media is like, oh, there's lots of people commenting on this stuff. So it adds to it. But yeah, discovering your purpose, and pain is a catalyst, or the passing of someone is a catalyst. But what if someone's out there and they've been I look back at my life and I'm like, well, I was working a 9 to 5 for 9.5 years. And in order for me to step into this journey, I had to face some fears. I had to do some public speaking. I had to invest in myself and do some personal development. And I had to isolate myself as well, move away from family and friends. I went to China, lived in the Shaolin Temple, learning Kung Fu, a lot more time alone. Now I've moved to Dubai, more time alone. I'm following what feels in alignment with what I need, right? But in order for me to start the journey, I had to start making changes. And I think that's definitely something that people struggle with. What could you suggest for someone who's like in a place in their life where they're not fulfilled, right? Because I think that's Tony Robbins says, progress equals happiness, right? If you're not making progress in your life, then you find yourself in a place of stagnation and almost depression, because nothing is changing. You're wanting a different life, but you're not doing anything different. So what kind of advice can you give to someone who wants to step into their purpose, wants to live their best life, but they're finding it difficult right now to make that happen?
My answer is actually pretty simple. I really feel like, first of all, I get a lot of inspiration from being out in nature. So I think going for a walk and literally just no distractions, like just give yourself the space to have the creative vision. Because for me, visualizing is like just a game changer. Because once you can see yourself in it and doing it, you can take the next step to actually make it happen. But if you're not giving yourself the space to even think about what you actually should be doing or what really resonates with you, you're not going to be able to make the move away from that, 9 to 5 that's maybe not satisfying to you. But to me, it's like baby steps. But the first thing is like just giving yourself space to have the imagination of what it could be, because we give ourselves just more and more numbing distractions, and it just keeps us away from being able to see that vision. And I think if you do something simple like going for a walk in nature, it can really just help you have like an aha moment, that could literally be the thing that changes everything.
Yeah, you bringing up nature makes me want to go back to my parents' house and dance in the woods. That's like one of my famous dances, and it's very grounding because I always go there and walk on the dirt and then dance on the dirt while the trees are just watching.
Yeah, I love your dancing videos, and I love nature. I love hiking. I love being outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what is your definition of success?
Whoa, that's a big question.
Because I know it's a big question, but there's so many people. I say the definition of success is inner peace. That's feeling content.
Yeah, I was going to say like self-satisfaction would be my, it's definitely not material. To me, it's, do you feel joy? Do you feel alignment with who you are and what you're doing?
Is it bad to have material?
No. I mean, it's the duality, I mean, you can hold both. You can, have material things. You can have nice things. You can work for nice things, because in some ways those give you the ability to help more people, right? So they're not mutually exclusive.
What's your relationship like with money? Because I think there's a big stigma there with people and success or money. And it's like lots of people have a fear of it for some reason.
Not afraid of it at all. I welcome it in every single day.
Money is the root of all evil, right? Money is the root of all evil. You've heard that before?
Yeah, I have, and I don't believe it. I mean, to me, again, abundance gives you the space to be able to create like the types of containers that you've created. You can't do those powerful things if you don't have the resources to do them. So, yeah, I call in abundance every single day. I'm a big fan of EFT tapping work. And so, I've got my little EFT mantras I go through every morning. The bring it on, universe, bring in all the abundance and opportunities that are meant for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Powerful stuff. Lindsay, everything that you've shared is really inspiring, and there's almost so much to take in. I have these moments, like I had a moment yesterday where I'd been working all day, and then I thought, well, I could order something and they could bring it to the apartment, and I'm like, nah, I can't. I got to get out. So I went for a walk. I went to this place. I went to another place, and then when I got back after like an hour, I was like, it's almost like I had this realization of like that I was a lot of the time I was just unconscious, and I was like, did I just do that? I was like, oh wow, I just went for a walk and I just did all this stuff by myself, and then it's like I was on autopilot, which is kind of like, again, it's like trying to stay in the present moment, but your mind, there's so much going on a lot of the times, right? There's so much going on in our minds that. And then you get those moments where you're driving, and then 10 minutes later, you're like, where am I? How did I get here? Right. But yeah, I can't remember why I was sharing that. I sometimes have these trains of thought, even myself, and I'm sharing this vulnerably because I think many people experience this, where you're in conversation and then your mind just goes somewhere else, or you've completely forgotten about what you were trying to say, and then you almost feel dumb in a sense, or you're not in control of the way that you think. Is that something that you deal with as well, or how do you battle that?
I've done a lot of work around just kind of at least getting myself to a neutral state, so that because I get a lot of what I would consider divine downloads, information and help with things that definitely didn't come from me. I find myself like writing emails for the business, for example, that is not even in my vernacular. So it's like, I know it's a divine download. I felt like that very much writing the book too. But I think, the more you can do like the meditation and visualization work, like the less autopilot you're on. But I do feel like sometimes that when you are driving or doing those things that are monotonous, those can be opportunities for us to open up too, because you are kind of in a like semi zoned out state. So messages can come through to you when you're in those states.
Yeah. When I'm speaking, doing my solo episodes, even because I'm in such a flow state, there's stuff that I say that I'm like, where did I learn that? I can't even. Yeah, like seriously, I get these words that come out. I'm like, where did I learn that? I can't remember learning that. And that's also part of surrendering, And I learned that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to read or to remember everything or to take in all the information that we're like learning, or when we're listening to content or whatever it is. And I learned this when I was in Chicago. I was reading a book called The Blank Slate. And I thought to myself, you know what? I don't like reading. It's not my thing. I like podcasts and audio books and stuff like that, motivational videos on YouTube. That's how I learned. And when I was living in Chicago at my cousin's house, I just had this moment where I was like, you know what? I'm going to every day for 20 minutes or whatever, I'm going to sit on this massage chair, because it was a really cool massage chair. I'm going to sit here with this book. And even though I don't like reading, I'm just going to allow my mind to take in the information that I'm reading. My mind is like, I read a paragraph, I'll keep reading, and then my mind is over there. So I'll get to the end of the page and I can't even remember what I read. But my mind, what I believe is that your mind is always processing everything. So what I'm reading is there subconsciously. Yeah, I'm still observing it. I'm still reading it. My mind's still taking it in. And so that's definitely something that has helped me, in terms of my learning, in terms of, taking away the pressure. Like there can be stuff that you were talking about today while I'm with you, and I can't remember everything. But guess what? My mind can, which is ridiculous, because that really takes away the emphasis of like, hey, stop trying to have it all figured out. Like, you're not supposed to remember everything, but guess what? Someday down the track, or some conversation you're going to have, or something you're going to talk about in the future, there's going to be information that you learned from Lindsay and you heard her talk about it, and it's going to come out and you're going to go, where did it come from? And that's also part of like, there can be downloads, but there can also be just the amount of information that you've taken in or learned from other people that you've forgotten about, that's actually stored there, and you can express it in that moment, right?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I prior to Rogers crossing over, I was very high drive and very, I guess, controlling of, like with the business and everything, having to have everything like perfect and figure everything out, and had to know where, the next client or next opportunity was coming from. And everything about this experience has been 100% an exercise of trust, where I like don't do that anymore. I just don't get caught up in that anymore. I trust that the opportunities that are meant for me, for us, will come, and as long as I'm doing the work and showing up and, like running the business the right way, like very heart-centered, it's going to work out.
Do the right thing and the right things come back. What you put out comes back. Take action as well, right? I think that some people expect or just want things to work out, but they're not showing up and doing the work. There's resistance, procrastination, fear, right? Not where they want to be. But like, as I say, you're not where you want to be. That's all the motivation that you need for you to take action, So yeah, congratulations on your success and everything that you've managed, with Roger's passing, because I know how, I don't know, because I'm not in your body and I'm not haven't experienced what you've experienced, but I can appreciate that it would be challenging and it wouldn't be easy, to move forward and to achieve the level of success that you've achieved, and to be able to be of service to others and to be an author. And there's so much time and energy that goes into everything that you are doing. And so, congratulations on that. And thank you so much for coming on the Luke Mind Power podcast and sharing your story and everything that you've experienced. And I know that everybody who's listening to this will be inspired, and will be interested to learn more about you. But if they want to, if everybody who's listening wants to follow you or contact you or get in touch with you, where can they do that?
I'm super Googleable, but my Instagram handle is Mateo's Mom 34. Otherwise, my website for the book is thesoulrevival.com, and that's where my coaching and everything is too.
The Soul Revival. That's a cool name.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much again for joining us on the podcast. It's such a blessing to meet you. And yeah, like I said, I know people who are tuning in will be very inspired and touched by your story. And also it's a story of resilience and courage to keep moving forward, to being the light, even though it's been, it would be a very challenging experience, when someone passes that's close to you that you love.
Thank you. And I very much appreciate your time and providing the platform to have this conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Lindsay.
Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery and growth. If you're ready to grow and reach your full potential and find inner peace, send me a DM that says, I want inner peace, and I'll send you the next steps. You can accomplish anything you set your mind to. When you change your mind, you change your whole life. So don't hesitate and send that DM over to me. Myself and my team can't wait to meet you and witness your transformation in full glory. See you next week.